Okay, let's do a title sequence or a title for our project. So I'm going to manually create this title. It's really easy to use the presets, and sometimes you can grab those presets and go in and modify them, but it's also good sometimes to create stuff from scratch. So I'm going over into the folders, and there's a walking on sands, and I double click on that and bring that up into the timeline, and here's the whole sequence. And I'm going to set an in and an out point, set the in point, set the out point at the very beginning and end of the clip. And I'm going to drag that onto the timeline, and I don't want to drag it over the audio file, because if I do, it'll actually chop the audio file. So what I want to do is when I drag it down, I want to put the audio file on a different layer, and the video on a different layer. So if I don't need the audio, we can also just drag down the video by clicking here and dragging down the video. So we did our lower third. I'm going to come over and I'm going to do a title. So this time I'm going to do the title from scratch. I'm going to click the graphics, and I'm going to grab the type tool, and when I click the type tool, I'm going to go over and click edit. And now I can manually create. So I'll just click on the screen, and I can, I'll just start by typing something. All right, so now I've got my title. What I want to do is I want to choose a different font. I can choose a different font. Select the text. Choose a different font. I can click in there and I can arrow key through the fonts. I can choose whether the font is bold or italicized. I can increase the size of the font, and then I can click to center it. Let's see here, that should center it. Let's see if we can get that to center. And I can center it horizontally and vertically. I can change the color of the fill. I can give it a stroke if I want. I can add a stroke, and I can choose to increase the thickness of the stroke. I have these buttons of peripheral lines. So this will give me the center virtually left and right. Sometimes it's better to have it just a little higher than center. Let me undo that. I actually undid it. Let me add it back. There it is. Let me redo that. And let me click back on it and activate it. So I can do a lot of different things. I can make it transparent, and I can grab it and extend its length. I think I'll change the fill to white or a different color. And I think I'll change the font. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have it zoom up, and I'm going to have it fade in. So now I've got my title. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go over to editing. I'm going to click on the graphic and go over to effect controls. I'm going to move my picture out of the way here. And I'm going to make it, I'll scale it, I'll set it to 0. So it's going to start invisible. And then I'm going to set it up to, no, let's put it back to 0 here. And I'm going to click the scale button, and then I'll drag it up over, and I'll set it to 100%. And it's going to spin up. Well, it's going to fly up. And then I can also have it fade in as it flies up. So I'm going to go back to the first keyframe, and I'm going to set the opacity to 0, then drag it up. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the video. Let me undo that. I want to click on the graphic here and set the opacity. Let's drag it over. Let's set the opacity, make sure we're clicking the right thing, to 0, and then drag it up so it matches. Set that to 100%. And now we've got this title kind of fading in. So my graphics card's not kicking in, so it's looking a little raggedy. And there it is, there's a fade in. Now, when I render it, it's gonna look great. Sometimes the playback is a little meditative because of the fact that it's chewing up so much RAM. But when I render it, it's going to be a full effect. So what we did here was we created a title from scratch. We applied the title to the sequence. We chose a color and a font and the stroke. We centered the text. And then we had it fade in and zoom up. And that's basically some different ideas. Now, let's look at some other ideas about this in the next section.